First step probably is that all labs in the civilized world, at least, let's put it that way, need to get digitized in the upcoming years. And there's a lot of countries that are working very hard on this and making a lot of progress. I think the Nordic countries are a really good example for doing so. I think also the Netherlands is doing quite well, with about half the labs now being fully digital for diagnostic work. So that's really taking shape. But many countries, even in Europe, are still lagging behind, let alone the rest of the world. So probably, in view of all the advantages that working in a digital way has, this is the first step that needs to be taken. And I'm talking especially about histology. For most labs, that's where the priority is in starting to work in a digital way. Of course, digital cytology is now upcoming after lagging behind for quite many years. There is a number of labs now around Europe especially that are implementing digital cytology. And I think that's a very important add-on to make sure that the whole workflow in a pathology lab is digital. At the same time, of course, we are implementing artificial intelligence, and that's taking a big wave. This is going much more slowly than it should go, actually. There's only a few labs really spearheading this. And I think while labs are being digitized, we will see AI catching up and starting to be implemented in more and more labs. I really hope that this is going to happen, because this is a very important way to improve our workflow, to make it more efficient, to make it more reliable, so that we can make better diagnosis for patients and make sure that they all get the right treatment. Well, gynae is usually the first step, because that's the big volume, right? So I think it's pretty obvious that this is where first steps are being taken. And it's really good way to sort of invent all the technology and to optimize it and to make it very user-friendly. So that's a pretty good step. This will also be a basis for various labs to be able to afford this new technology, because, I mean, again, this is gonna cost money, right? Which most labs don't really have. At the same time, we see a decline in the number of technicians that are available to do the visual screening. So I also think that there is like a must for us to switch to this technology to make sure that we can keep doing cytological diagnosis in the first place in the upcoming 5 to 10 years. Now, non-gynae is volume-wise a lot less than gynae, but I still at the same time think that it's a very important way to move forward. Cytological diagnostics is difficult, right? You don't get a lot of cells. They are out of their tissue context, so the diagnostics is difficult. There are only a few pathologists that are specialized enough to actually do this on a high level. And to do this in a digital way will allow the development of AI. Now, apart from the usual advantages like the workflow is nicer, you're a bit more efficient, you can work remotely. I think especially the development of AI in the field of non-gynae cytology is going to be very important. I don't see anything yet, but I think it's a very important field. And I hope that in a collective effort from compiling cases from different pathology labs, the companies can start developing these type of AI algorithms. I think that's very important. Ooh, key factors for success, there are many of them. So I could talk about that for like an hour, but let me try to get maybe the most important ones. First of all, there must be a true inherent wish to do this, because you believe in the fact that it will improve the diagnostic work, improve efficiency, and improve patient safety. And I think that improving patient safety is one of the most important selling points for going digital in the first place, because you make fewer mistakes, and that's really important for the patients. Technology and availability of technology is very important for that. In the years that we started, we didn't have a lot of options to go digital, but this has now changed a lot. There are a number of companies that are providing really good digital solutions for labs to go. And the component of change management is important. Switching from the traditional microscope to looking at a screen is quite a big deal in pathology. And there's always people that are a bit reluctant for change. They like the traditional way of working. They are convinced that the way they work is best, that they are very quick, etc., etc. But they need to be convinced by convincing themselves, basically, by just doing it, to find out that there is a better way of working, but that's sometimes difficult. So when we implemented a fully diagnostic workflow, we really made sure that everybody in the department that was working in patient care was involved to make this whole process a success. And that meant that they internalized the idea that this was a good solution, but they also got mandate to implement it in the way that they felt best. So they had influence on the work process to direct it and to invent it and to put it into practice the way they like themselves. So these are a few key factors. There's one more that I should of course mention, which is the money. There has been a thought that there could be a neutral business case for going digital. I'm pretty convinced, always have been convinced, that that's not the case. Going digital is gonna cost a bit of extra money, even though there are other places where you will definitely save costs. The arguments like, being able to do AI implementation, increasing patient safety are so important that I think that we should accept that it's gonna cost a little bit more money. Increasing patient safety is the first bullet in making a business case. A business case as in a business case, not just about money, right? A business case in this sense being about something being a very good idea. To increase patient safety, to make sure that you have better diagnostics, that you don't have mix-ups as in the result from some tissue goes to the report of another tissue. It's for outside people a bit difficult to understand how this can happen, but in a traditional way of working, this was definitely possible. You would just pick up a slide from a tray, put it under the microscope, and if these slides had been mixed up on the tray, and you would not notice the number because you didn't check the number, you can just see something in a slide which belongs to another patient and put it in the wrong report. Now we have always the pathology report and the images, they are synced. So if I put up the report, I get the images that belong to it. If I pull up the images, I get the report that belongs to it, right? So there is no more mix-ups. So increasing patient safety is a very important issue here. You definitely work more efficient. Changing slides, picking them up from a tray, switching objectives on the microscope is all time consuming, and all of this goes much quicker once you go digital. It's just one button on the keyboard where you can switch between images and those kind of things. Creating annotations is very easy on digital images. You don't need to scribble on the slide any longer with a pencil. Consultation is a lot easier for your colleagues where you have a difficult case and you want somebody else's opinion. That can now very easily be done through the system. You don't have to walk over the corridor with a slide of trays and disturb somebody who's doing something else at that very moment. Teaching is completely digital and the students love it. Research has become completely digital and the researchers love it because they may have slides, but they don't have their own microscope. So these are all secondary advantages. Ergonomy is better. We had quite some people in the lab that had complaints, back complaints or neck complaints, even with herniated discs because of endlessly looking down the microscope, and that has all gone away, basically. You can work completely paperless, so there are also green arguments to start working in a digital way. So altogether there are so many advantages. Working remotely, I did not mention this, but this is completely possible. We did this even before Corona pandemic emerged. During Corona pandemic, we were one of the labs that really benefited a lot from being able to work remotely. And this makes you as a pathologist work much more flexible in where you are when you do your diagnostic work. After this talk, I can go back to my laptop and do any diagnostic work that is required from me during this day where I'm away from the lab. So these are a number of advantages. Well, we've discussed AI already. If you want to do serious AI, you must be completely digital. So.